Hey everyone, it's Chelsea coming in with a new iPhone video. Now, if the sound here is a little bit worse than usual, in addition to the fact that it's recorded on an iPhone, it is because I'm sitting in front of an open window. If I look extremely sweaty, it's because I am, and I literally just came from filming for several hours across town this morning, but it's 90 degrees where I am and there's no AC, so we're just sweating it out, baby. Gwyneth Paltrow who? Because we're in a detox center all of our own. But I wanted to come on and just kind of be transparent with you guys because, you know, I really have always kind of prided myself on that as a business owner. And, you know, I want to talk a little bit politics. That's what these iPhone videos are for. But I also want to talk about myself as a person and TFD kind of more generally. And yeah, just kind of wrap with you guys because it's been a tough year, honestly. It's not been as bad as my year 2023 was, which was in many ways like the toughest year of my adult life, where TFD really, really struggled. And that was brutal for all of us, but it was really, really financially difficult for my husband and I. And, you know, this year is so much better. Like, I can't even stress that enough. It is really night and day. But especially since November of last year, like we and I personally have been kind of running into a different kind of problem that although financially we're doing better than we were then, has made life more difficult and made, in some ways, creating content a lot more difficult. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys about that and be transparent. So if you guys haven't noticed, over the past several years, but especially since November, this channel has taken a much more political tone. Like, I am personally a lot more politically involved in my real life. I do a lot of political volunteering, and I just generally feel a lot more politically engaged than I did when I started the channel. But also I do feel that it is an ethical responsibility with such a large platform that talks about money and talks to women, to speak honestly about what's happening in our country, because at the end of the day, personal finance is a deeply, deeply political thing. And, you know, we can talk until we're blue in the face, and many creators do, about how to, you know, pay back debt or build your credit or do all of these things. But I don't think that's enough. I think you can and should do that in the immediate term. But I think the bigger question needs to be, why are we in this situation? Why are we in such a rich country where so many people have to struggle, and managing one's personal finances is mandatory in a way that it is not, or at least not to the same extent in so many other developed countries. You know, with the big, beautiful bill that just passed, fucking yikes, I'm so sick of having to say that word, or that phrase. You know, the amount of people who are likely to lose their health insurance is well over 10 million. And the knock-on effects of that, beyond just the medical, like the catastrophic effect that will have on people's finances, like on some level, I feel very existentially anguished about the fact that a lot of the personal finance community and the financial media community's response to that is going to be, well, here's how to work out a really good plan if you get into severe medical debt because you lost the genetic lottery and got, you know, a disease that requires long-term care. Better luck next time, I guess. Maybe these people all believe in reincarnation and think that next time you'll come back as fucking Dave Ramsey or whatever and not have any of these financial problems. But anyway, I say all that to say, like, the path that we kind of used to take, which was more just dealing with the symptoms of the problem, really doesn't feel sufficient to me anymore. And it kind of, on some level, grosses me out to only do that. Again, we do still give a lot of practical advice, and we'll continue to do it. And I still use a lot of practical advice in my financial life, but I want to be a more political person, and I want to use this channel to more political ends. But at the same time, like, there have been some negative consequences of that, like, straight up. We've mentioned it before, but like, we have had so many problems with our videos getting demonetized, reported, flagged, flooded with negative comments. Anytime we mention political names, we have had several videos that were flagged for election campaigning or something along those lines, which removed their ability to monetize. We've had so many videos where we've had to like spend hours, like just going through and deleting so many hateful comments, you know, from everything from, you know, people on the extreme right, generally men, saying really nasty things about me and about the channel, to, you know, people just getting angry at us that we're not just doing regular personal finance content 24/7. And we've also had, you know, certain sponsors that won't work with us because we are openly political. And this is where I'll say, like, we plug Monarch and Betterment and Advisor all the time. Yes, we work with them. I use them. Like, I use Monarch every day. I literally just looked at it 5 minutes ago. It's a great budgeting app, but they allow us to talk about all of these things. And like, that is why it is so important that like we are able to find certain partners who are okay with us being really open about these things, because not every big financial company is. And ultimately, like, that's how we have to pay our employees. And that's how we survive as a business. So I'm just gonna stop right there and say, if you've been looking for a budgeting app, please check out Monarch. If you've been thinking about working with a financial advisor, please schedule a call with them. And if you've been wanting to invest, we highly endorse Betterment. All of those are linked below. They are an extraordinarily good way to support us as a channel and as a company. But, you know, they also, like, big shout out to those companies for being okay with their ads appearing on political content. Like, that is rare. So shout out to all three. They are linked below. But, you know, in addition to the impacts that talking about politics will have on our content and our channel, something that has started happening more frequently, especially over the last few months and really since the election, is videos of mine, some from YouTube, but also some that I put on my own TikTok, get taken and put on these like big right-wing blogs, or these big right-wing, I'm so old saying blog, these big right-wing accounts that will just like tear them apart, stop them, tear them apart, like stop me every sentence and like rip into me. Like the other day, it was one with like a man wearing like a fucking tactical vest or something, like who was walking down the street, like talking shit about me and like, you know, tearing apart one of my videos basically. And they're very popular. And like, I'm very aware as a human being that like, there is always going to be a level of risk associated with any kind of putting yourself out there publicly, period, end of story. That is automatically more acute if you're a woman. And obviously if you are, you know, not white or any of these other sort of, you know, additional identities that will make you more and more vulnerable to being kind of singled out or having your stuff appear on, you know, on channels and pages like that. I know that that's part of the game. And to some extent, that's always been a reality for me as a content creator. It's part of the territory. But I have noticed that being at the intersection specifically of personal finance, which a lot of the content creators and a lot of the audience tends to be kind of conservative, and being very openly politically to the left, like that combination is just extremely toxic, because you are reaching a lot of people who really don't agree with what you say and are very angry at you for saying it in the context of personal finance. So like what happens now on kind of a regular basis is like one of these videos will go up on one of these pages, thousands of comments on the video of people, like I really try not to look at them, but anytime I do, it's like, obviously because I'm a woman, a lot of it is just comments ripping apart my appearance, which I'm not gonna like pretend like that doesn't hurt my feelings. Of course it does. No one ever likes to see tons of nasty comments about what they look like, and just other kind of like all-purpose misogyny. But I really, like I said, I go out of my way not to look at the content, not to interact with it. But the problem then is that all of my accounts then start getting flooded with people leaving nasty things on all of my photos, like photos of myself and my husband, collaboration posts that I do with other creators who then are so confused as to who these people are. They'll flood, you know, my book pages. They just really try to make my life difficult in the short term. Like the other day I posted on Instagram, this like one random woman was like, she left like hundreds of comments. Like my Instagram was like temporarily unusable because she was flooding everything and like arguing with other random people that I had collabed with. And she was accusing me, like you can see the story I posted here, but like she was accusing me of like selling courses on building wealth, which is also like one of the things that's to be noted about these videos that rip me apart is that they often say things that aren't true. Like in this one, they're like, she criticizes wealth inequality, but then sells classes on building wealth. And I'm going to say two things. One, all of those classes are free. Like, part of the reason that we partner with sponsors is so that we can offer all of our like important financial classes totally for free. Like, the one that she's referring to is literally July 16th, and it is completely free and open to anyone. Like, so it just really bothers me that I would be accused of like trying to shill something that I'm distinctly going out of my way to make free and accessible. Let's stop right there. But second of all, like, that false dichotomy of like, if you are at all critical of the extreme wealth inequality that we have to live with here in America, that is totally self-imposed by our policies and totally man-made and could be undone, that you can't like want to save for retirement, that you can't want to like eventually be able to own a home, like you can't want any of these basic niceties that used to be a tent pole of the middle class. Like, it's such a false dichotomy, but it's so easy to sound like a gotcha, and it happens constantly with our content. It's really exhausting on a personal level. Like, I want to be able to just like open up my Instagram and like see my friends like anyone, and like post fun stuff, like a cute meal I cooked, or a picture of my husband and I at my cousin's wedding, and like to have to sift through like so many hateful comments is like, and I'm good about deleting them. I'm very good about like trying to keep the worst stuff out of my face, and I will shout out the team here at TFD because they often do a lot of like the comment management so that I don't have to see like really mean things about myself. But the reality is that like speaking about politics comes at a cost. Like, even we did a fundraiser. I did a fundraiser a couple weeks ago for the Young Center, which is a nonprofit that helps children who are stuck in immigration court, which, on that note, like, many people don't know this, but although you are guaranteed representation if you can't afford it in criminal court in the US, you are not guaranteed that in immigration court, and families are often separated. So what often results is little children who often don't even speak English, who are in court representing themselves. And so we raised money on this live fundraiser. We actually had the organization on the fundraiser. I was on there for 6 hours. In 6 hours, we raised $25,000. And then since then, the Young Center has told us, here's a screenshot, that our fundraiser has brought in over $55,000 for their organization, which is, I can't even tell you how happy and grateful and, honored that makes me to be able to participate in that. Because so many of these stories, that are coming out about these children in these immigration courts are just completely heart-wrenching. Like the woman from the Young Center, she was saying about how in one of the children that they were paired with, one of their cases, the judge asked the little toddler if he knew what he was being accused of, or what the proceedings were, and he just held up his stuffed animal as a reply, because he didn't understand and he doesn't speak English. And just the idea of children being left in that situation by themselves is beyond devastating. So anyway, so we did that and we raised the money, and it was really exciting, and we're going to do more this year, more like that. But like, we lost like thousands of subscribers that day, and got a bunch of nasty comments about, being just like about our politics and about, I don't come here for this, lefty propaganda and, blah, 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 blah. And we got to protect our borders and, illegals and all this stuff. And, I, as a business owner, I can tell you that, we've gotten very lucky over the past almost 11 years, and we've been able to thread the needle and run a business that is ethical and that, treats personal finance with pragmatism and seriousness, but also speaks to the context that put us in this situation to begin with. And I'm so grateful that we've been able to do it. But, it is really hard balancing, being choosy about who we work with and only working with partners who allow us to be political, kind of dealing with the blowback that comes from being political, trying to offer as much as we possibly can for free, including like all of our workshops and classes, so that, you don't have to have money in order to access them, especially right now. It's really, really hard. Like, I sometimes really do mentally struggle with the stress and pressure of it. And I will say, like, we don't promote it that much because I hate to be honest, feeling salesy, and I don't want to, push people if they can't afford things, but we do have our membership, which is the primary way that we support ourselves. Our goal is for it to be over 50% of how we support ourselves. It's not there yet, but it is one of the biggest. And it's, a really good membership in my opinion. We do regular podcasts that are just for our members. We have workshops that are every month that are just for our members. We have guidebooks. We have, I write a newsletter that's just for our members every week. Like, we do a lot of really good stuff. I think you do get a lot of value for your dollar. If you're a society member, sound off in the comments, because I do think we do a lot for a membership. But if you've ever considered supporting us as a channel, I can tell you, like, every single member is like the most important, most valuable thing. I like want to cry every time we get a new one, because it just takes so much pressure off and allows us to do what we want to do. And what I feel like we need to do right now. Because honestly, like, a lot of the personal finance community just really, I think, well, first of all, I do think a lot of them are openly conservative, but even the ones that aren't, I think, really abdicate their responsibility to deal with the greater social, political context. Like, some of them don't, right? Like, I must shout out a lot of the creators that don't. Like, you have like a Katie Gaddy of Money with Katie. She's wonderful on this topic. You have Berna and Nat, who we actually also work with now on Monarch, because she works with Monarch. Again, shout out to them for being an excellent app, but also excellent company that lets us talk about what we need to talk about. There are so many who speak about these things in a really thoughtful, open way, but a lot of what, not only gets clicks, but also what a lot of the online financially interested community wants to hear about is, some form of do better with money, you idiot. Like, that's a lot of the content out there, is like, essentially your poverty, your stress, your financial precarity is your fault. Because you're dumb and not hardworking enough, or not this or not that, and I'm just going to berate you about it. Or, I'm just going to push the bootstrap mentality relentlessly, or only ever deal with the symptoms of the problem and never ever interrogate why we have these problems to begin with. When so many other developed nations don't. Not to say they don't have problems, but many of our problems are uniquely American. And as I've always said, like, I love our community, but I also, like, I do love America. Not the concept maybe of America, that's problematic, not the government of America, but Americans by and large, I love as people. I am American, but also, like, so many Americans are such wonderful people and have so much to offer. They work so hard. They're, I think they've been given in many cases such a raw deal, and it's often the most vulnerable Americans who get the rawest deal of all, who are disenfranchised, who, have to work so hard just to have the bare minimum. And when you look at a lot of stats, like, Americans are among the most generous people in the world when it comes to charitable giving. Like, they're very, they work so hard often for so little, and are turned against each other so effectively. In ways that really, really break my heart. And I think a lot of the conversation in the personal finance world really aggravates that, because it becomes this sort of not just competition with others, but competition with yourself, essentially, where your moral worth is so tied up in how much you can go without and how much you can sort of punish yourself. Like, I'll never forget that fucking Dave Ramsey quote where he's like, if you're in any kind of debt, the only time you should ever see the inside of a restaurant is if you're washing dishes or whatever. Like, gross. Like, I don't, even if the debt was totally self-imposed, like, to live in a country as rich as ours, to be a person as rich as he is, and have such contempt for anyone who might be behind the eight ball for any reason, and to think that they deserve no luxuries, no moments of joy. We're always out here policing whether someone has food stamps and an iPhone, not even withstanding that for many of the poorest Americans, their smartphone is their computer. I think at the end of the day, our positioning as a business and my putting myself out there in the way that I have is an ongoing thing, right? Like, I don't know the right answer. We've seen the channel grow a ton over the past year. So many of you guys have responded so well to the content that we've been doing, and I'm very proud of it. And I think we've helped in some ways. But I do want to be transparent that, like, I can see why people who do political content or who put themselves out there in that way full time really get burned out, because the harassment is a lot and the nastiness is a lot. And like, when I see myself, like, oftentimes when people make the mean videos of me, or like the, call out, clap back, whatever fucking videos about me, like, they tag me in it. So I'm like forced to see it, forced to untag myself. People are coming over in droves to my personal pages, and like, I'm not here to be like, oh, boo-hoo, like, I'm such a victim. Like, I'm still an extremely privileged person. And like, I think it was like Tyler, the creator's like, how is cyberbullying real? Like, close your computer, like, close your eyes. I have the privilege of escaping that. I have the privilege of not dealing with it, but it does make me sad. And like, when it makes it harder to support ourselves as a business, like, that does make me sad. When people maliciously report our content on a regular basis and flag it for electioneering or whatever, like that, it makes me feel very demoralized, and I promise, like, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I will continue to be here. We have a lot of really exciting stuff coming this year that I'm really proud of and that I think is important. Like, I'm so proud of what we were able to do with the Young Center, but it has at times been very depressing. Now, not when Zoran won. When Zoran won, I was like, yeah, we fucking did that shit. Me especially, I'm kidding. But it was really exciting to have been a volunteer on that campaign and see it win. So like, there are definitely wins. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely wins. But it does sometimes get really, really hard. And so I just want to say thank you to everyone who's been here. If you become a member, that's like the most amazing thing you can do for us. But if you can't afford it, I understand. Or you don't want to, I understand. If you've been looking for one of these financial products and you use our link or you work with one of our partners, huge for us, amazing. And again, shout out to these companies that let us do what we want and let us say what we want, because not everyone does. And we have felt the brunt of that many, many times. Even just watching this video, like, share, like, comment, subscribe, all of that really, it helps enormously. So yeah, I'm just coming on here to kind of be honest with you guys, because it's been a shitty couple days with some of these stupid accounts. That's where I'm at. I'm here. The fight goes on. We're going to do it together. But this is sometimes what it feels like to be a public figure to some extent, to be the owner of a business, to try and do it in an ethical way, and to kind of thread the needle between personal finance and, the macro of it all. So I hope you guys have a nice weekend. I'll see you around.